Hello everyone, welcome to today's session conducted by Cloud and Loud community. Today we are going to see a few more services on regards to Azure. So during our last sessions, we have seen how we have created the virtual machines and how we have managed the disks and how we have taken the snapshot and done everything in regards to the disk. Today, we are going to see a few more services in regards to the Azure virtual machines and how we can scale them. So before starting the session, I just wanted to give you an introduction about our community, Cloud and Loud community. So Cloud and Loud is having 11 plus years of experience in training the associates on different technologies like DevOps and cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and much more. Cloud and Loud community is also offering a few coupons to the community members who is willing to take the external certifications as well. Okay, and also we are posting some of the job openings. If you are interested, you can take a look in our newsletter as well. So please do follow our community group, and also please subscribe to our newsletter so that you don't miss any updates, any upcoming updates that is going to be conducted by this Cloud and Loud. Okay, let me go ahead and paste you some information in the chats. Okay, here you go. So if you get any questions during our session, please make a note down, and you can ask me during our question and answer session, or you can post your queries in our technical group. The link I have provided here in the chats, you can post it there. Okay. Okay, so myself, Yasmin Sheikh, I work with Cognizant Technology Solutions, and I am a Azure and 𝐂𝐸𝐴MCAT certified IT engineer. I have a 6+ years of experience in working as a configuration deployment specialist and as an infra developer. So let's get started with today's session. So today I want to start with the availability set. So before telling you what is availability set, let me give you some explanation on why do we need availability set. Okay, so let's say you are having one application which needs to be hosted in the virtual machine, right? Okay, let me take unnoted. Okay, so now let's say you are having one application which needs to be hosted in your virtual machines, right? So you have hosted your application in virtual machine 1, and you are also hosting your application in another virtual machine for better performance, right? So, but actually, if you think about that, these virtual machines, whichever you are creating, that is actually going to create on some of the physical hardware that presents in Azure data center, right? But you don't have any control you don't have any control where you want to host your virtual machines, like in regards to the hardware, right? You can't choose on which rack, on which hardware your virtual machine is going to be hosted. You don't have that control, right? So let's say if you are hosting your application in 2 virtual machines, and if your both virtual machines is going to be hosted on the same hardware rack or like same server, then each server in the Azure data center will have its own power and own network. Okay, so if your both virtual machines are hosted on the same rack, let's say, then if there is some power issue or some network outage is happening, then there is a chance of all this rack going down, right? So if this physical server is going down, then obviously whatever the virtual machines you have hosted on this physical server will also go down. If your virtual machines go down, then obviously your application will also go down, right? So at that time, your application will not be available to any users, and users may not be able to use your application, right? To avoid this type of failures, to bring the more availability across your virtual machines and the applications, Azure is offering one service that is called as a availability set. Okay, let's see what is availability set now. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so this is availability set. I will explain you in detail why we need availability set and what it's actually doing. Okay, so let's say if you are hosting your virtual machine 1, okay, when you host your virtual machine, it will be actually hosted on the physical rack, on the physical server Just a moment. Okay, so this is a physical rack 1. Let's say this is one rack. Okay, so when you host your first virtual machine, then it will host your virtual machine on the physical rack 1. Okay, once it is done, when you actually host your application, there is something with which it regards to, it will map, like when you host your virtual machine, it maps to one update domain and it maps to one fault domain. Okay, so I'll tell you in detail what is update domain and fault domain. So this is another rack. This is another rack which is having a multiple servers, let's say. So this is one rack having a multiple servers. This is one rack having multiple servers. This is one rack having multiple servers. Okay, so the one particular rack whose power and whose network is managed is different when compared to the other rack whose power and network is. So if you take one rack, the power and the network resources, the network speed, so everything is different when compared to the other rack, when compared to the other rack. So let's say if there is some, as I said, if there is some power issues or any network issues happening, then there is a chance of going this particular rack or this particular fault domain down. So this particular rack, which is having its individual power and network, is called as a fault domain. Okay, so if one fault domain is going down, then obviously you will have other fault domains where your virtual machines are hosted, so that the customers of your application will be served from here. Okay, in the same way, let's say if you have, so you know that any hardware needs maintenance, right? Like it could be like boot maintenance, or it could be any updates that actual physical hardware needed, right? So what Azure is doing is they need to manage all the hardware. They need to update all their underlying infrastructure, right? They will collect a set of servers which is internally connected. So when there is any update happening, or when they reboot during the actually when you do any update, there is a chance of the machines going for a reboot, right? So if these machines are going for a reboot, then obviously whatever the virtual machines we have hosted might go down during that time, right? So so in simple terms, I can say that update domain is nothing but a set of a logical group on which Azure itself, they apply their maintenance period. Okay, so they won't take all the update domains at a time. They will do one by one. For example, so this is one rack. So the first server is called the first server in this fault domain, and this first server in this fault domain, and first server in this fault domain. So let's say the logical group of this is called as the update domain. So let's say this update domain, they are applying maintenance period on the update domain 1. So all these update domain will go down during that maintenance period. So, but even though if you are having your virtual machines on other update domains, then that will be, so your customers will be served through these update domains. I mean, through these virtual machines, which has been hosted on the other update domains, right? So in simple terms, I can say that as a summary, a physical rack which is connected to an individual power or source, or which is like connected to the hardware, like any hardware failures or any power or network failures that going to come, to protect your application, to maintain the high availability, your virtual machines will be hosted across different fault domains to maintain that availability. Okay, this is in regards to the fault domains. At the same time, update domain is nothing but a logical group where the group of servers will get rebooted at the same time when Azure maintenance period is happening. Like if they are going to trigger their updates in one update domain, they will make sure that they will update one by one. They won't do any they might not do in the series, like update 1 now, next update 2. It cannot be a series. So they can go with update domain 1 and then can do update domain 3, and they can come back to update domain. But whatever it may be, they will make sure that they will update only one update domain at a time. And once it is up and running and all the virtual machine it is hosted is up and running, then only they will go and update their other update domains. Okay, so to understand this in a better way, let us see some hands-on one example to how it is actually creating virtual machines across the different fault domains and the different update domains. Okay, let me clear. Let's go to Azure Portal. Here we are. So now, as I told you, first of all, I'm going to create one availability set. Okay, let's go to availability set and create one. You can, so the same, you need to give the properties while creating. As I don't have any resource group here, I'm just going to create one and I'm going to call it as resource group 1. Okay, let me name it as availability set 1. Okay, and it's, I'm hosting in Australia Southeast. Okay, so if you see here, there are the fault domains that I can choose, the number of fault domains that I can choose while creating this availability sets are 2. So the maximum number of fault domains you can choose while creating your availability set is 2 or 3 based on the region you have selected. So I have chosen this Australia Southeast. So the maximum fault domains I can create in this region is 2. If let's say if I am choosing some other region like East US. So if you can see here, the fault domains I can create is 3. I can choose up to 3 fault domains while creating my availability set. In the same way, I can choose, in the same way, you can choose up to 20 numbers of update domains. As you can see, this is the total number of update domains that you can choose for your availability set. So I'm going with the Australia Southeast as of now because it's near location for me. And I can create up to 2 fault domains, as well as I can create up to 20 update domains in my availability set, right? So let me reduce this to 2 as of now. We are doing so. I'm going with the 2 fault domains and 2 update domains. Okay, so whenever you create this availability set, whatever the virtual machines you are going to host in this availability set, the underlying disk should be a managed disk. Okay, so make sure that it is selected. And next, if we go to the advanced, so this is called proximity placement group. What this proximity placement group will do is, let's say your virtual machine is created in this fault domain. Okay, so in this rack, so other virtual machine is created in another fault domain. So this proximity group will make sure whatever the virtual machines you are created, that is nearby. I mean, it will make sure to create as close as possible with the other virtual machines of the same availability set, because whatever the communication between the virtual machines, or sometimes there might be any like flag files that needs to be triggered to one virtual machine from the other. So whatever the communication happening in between the virtual machine, that will be very close, so that this proximity placement group will make sure whatever the virtual machines you are grouping into that will be created in the actual physical data center as close as possible. Okay, so this is the use of that. So let me go and clear this. Okay, so as of now, I'm not choosing. I will show you if I have time, I will show you how to create the proximity group and how you can assign this. So as of now, I'm going ahead and creating one availability set. Okay, so you need to make sure. So when it comes to the availability set, it is your responsibility that you need to create your virtual machine and host your virtual machine in that availability set. That this availability set doesn't do anything. I mean, like, it's not going to create the virtual machines by itself, and it's not going to place the virtual machines by itself in there. Okay, so it is your responsibility that you create the virtual machine and assign those virtual machines to this availability set. Okay, as of now, I have just created the availability set. Now go back and I'm going to create my virtual machine now. Okay, let's create one virtual machine. Okay, now I'm going to select the same resource group, RG1. I'm going to name it as VM1. Okay, I'm going to choose the same area. Now, if you come to the availability options, in our previous session, we haven't bothered about this redundancy. We haven't bothered about the availability, right? We have just kept it as it is, and we have progressed with the other things. Now, if you choose, if you can see the availability options, there are 3 options which you have. One is availability zone, other one is virtual machine scale set, and the other one is availability set. So now we have created an availability set. So I'm going to choose one availability, the option of availability set, and I'm going to choose the availability set which I have created just now. Okay, now I'm going with the same image, but I'm going to reduce the size because I'm not going to actually log in into the virtual machine or see or host any workload. I just wanted to show you how the virtual machines will be organized in the availability set across the fault and update domains. Okay, so I'm just going to choose a basic one, and I'm going with the password. Let me say VM1 is the username. And password. Allowing the ports, go to disk. So I'm just choosing a basic one. I'm not changing anything. So one network has been created in this resource group. I'm not changing anything. Just going to the management. If you want, you can keep it is, but as I'm not going to log in into the virtual machine, I don't want the book diagnostics, so I'm just going to disable it. It's yeah, if you want, if you need to log in into the virtual machines, you can choose your storage account accordingly. Okay, I'm just going to the advanced, not going to do anything, review and create. Okay, so now, okay, validation has passed. Now go ahead and create. Okay, it has initialized the deployment now. Deployment is in progress. Now let's come back, go to our availability set. And if you go to the virtual machines or to the overview, as of now, we don't have any virtual machines displayed here, right? One virtual machine we are creating, but that is in progress. Meanwhile, let me go and create another virtual machine. Virtual machines, create, and here, choose the resource group you want to, and I'm naming it as, let's say, VM2. Okay, I'm using here. And also I'm going to choose the availability set. I'm going to place this virtual machine also in this availability set. Okay, this is my availability set, which I have created. And this is a basic instance, yes, right. And I'm going to give a password. So VM2 user, give a password. So now I'm allowing the same. I'm choosing the a lower instance because I'm not going to place any workload. Just going with the networking. If you have seen here, the same network, the same subnet, whichever it was taken during the creation of the virtual machine 1, the same network has been taken to the virtual machine 2 as well, because we are placing all these machines in the same availability set. Okay, now let's go to the management. I'm disabling the boot diagnostics. I don't want, I'm not going to log in here. Just review and create. Okay, so now our second virtual machine is also creating. If you go back, okay, I think I haven't. I have not clicked on the create. Let me just go ahead quickly and create one. Yes. Yes. Some password. Yeah, right. So go to disk. I don't want premium one. So just go to networking, the same network, go to the management. I'm disabling, as I don't want boot diagnostics, I'm going to advanced, review and create. Okay, so now this is validating my virtual machine. So once the validation is passed, then I will be creating it. So now I click on create. Okay. So now the deployment is starting. Okay, done. So now go to home. So this is the virtual, this is the availability set which we have created, right? If you see here, the virtual machine 1, which I have created earlier, that is running, and the virtual machine 2 that I have created now, that is still in progress. Now, if you see here, this virtual machine has been placed in a fault domain 0 or update domain 0, right? So let me show you. So this is our Azure data center. This is one rack of servers, This is another rack of servers. This is all I'm talking about, the physical underlying physical infrastructure in the data center. Okay, so this is another rack of servers like this. So now what happened is I have created one virtual machine here and I have hosted, right? So what it done is, this is my first rack, right, which is having separate power and network. Which this one is having separate power and network. This one is having separate power and network. This is separate hardware. This is separate hardware. This is separate hardware, right? So whatever the virtual machine first I have created, this is called as a fault domain 0. This is fault domain 1. This is fault domain 2. So it has placed my virtual machine in the fault domain 0. Okay. Now at the same time, update domain. So update domain is a logical group across your servers, right? It's not going to be a part of only one particular rack or something. It is a logical group. When there is some update or some boot updates has been applied, then the underlying infrastructure, the virtual machines, these will be rebooted at the same time. Okay, so this is update domain 0. And the next row of servers, I'm calling it as a update domain 1. And the next row of servers, I'm calling it as a update domain 2. So my first virtual machine has been placed in fault domain 0 and update domain 0. So here, so my first virtual machine has been created here, right? So now, let me clear this. Okay. So now if you go to the second one, let's refresh. Let's see if it has created. Okay, now see, the virtual machine 2, which I have created, it is actually created in fault domain 1 and the update domain 1. So let me here. So this is the data center, and let's say this is fault domain 0. This is fault domain 1, and this is one server. This is one server. This is one server. This is one server. So this is update domain 0. This is update domain 1, right? So my first server has been placed here, right? Fault domain 0 and the update domain 0. So if you can see here, the virtual machine which I have created next, it has been placed in fault domain 1 and update domain 1, which means this is fault domain 1 and the second one is update domain 1. So here, why do you know why? Because if it has placed here, my second virtual machine here, then there is a chance of protecting from the hardware issues. But whatever the maintenance, whatever the updates from the Azure itself, if it's going to happen in the one update domain, then both my virtual machines will be down, right? So this availability set actually doesn't create any virtual machines. It will make sure whatever the virtual machines you are creating in the virtual machine set, it is spreaded across the update domains and the fault domains as much as possible, so that it can provide you high availability. If you go ahead, if you create another virtual machine, let's say if I go ahead and create virtual machine 3, then it will create that virtual machine in the fault domain 1 and the update domain 1. You know what? Because I have chosen 2 fault domains and 2 update domains, right? So it is spreading my virtual machines across it. If I go ahead and create another virtual machine, let's say VM4, it will create here. So it will make sure that if this hardware goes down, it will be available. If this update domain is updating, going into the reboot and the maintenance, then these machines will be available. So it will make sure that in every aspect, whatever the virtual machines you are creating, it will spread as much as possible. Okay. So now, okay. So what happens if I go and create the next virtual machine like VM5? So as we have selected only 2 fault domains and the 2 virtual 2 update domains, it will again start placing your virtual machines in the same series. Like you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 done. So all places are occupied, right? So when I go and create virtual machine 5, it will again come from the first. So virtual machine 5 will be created in this host, and virtual machine 6 will be created here, virtual machine 7 will be created here, virtual machine 8 will be created here. If you want more, so again virtual machine 9 will be created here, virtual machine 10 will be created here, 11 will be created here, 12 will be created. In the same way, it will make sure how many virtual machines maybe you create. It will make sure to spread across your fault and update domains equally to provide you high availability and to provide you a high availability of your applications and the virtual machines. Okay, so this is in regards to the availability set. So now let us see one example. So let's say if your customer is asking you, like if you're having a customer who is migrating their on-premises application from let's say their own on-premises to the Azure. Okay. So they are migrating their on-premise application to the Azure platform. Okay. And your customer is asking you to make sure there should be at least 4 virtual machines should be up and running during the Azure maintenance period. Okay. So if your customer is asking for that, immediately you should know that when it comes to the Azure maintenance period, then it is something in regards to your update domains, right? And your customer is asking you, there should be at least 4 virtual machines always up and running. In that case, what you will do? So you have to create a availability set with choosing at least 5 update domains. Let me go and show here. Okay, this one. So if you see here, if your customer is asking you to create at least 4 virtual machines, then what you will do, you have to create an availability set choosing at least 5 update domains. So as I told you, Azure will update only update domains one by one. So if one update domain is going down, you have 4 update domains up and running. So the virtual machines in this 4 update domains will be up and running as well. So if it is up, after this is up and running, Azure will go and update this infrastructure. So during this downtime, other 4 will be available. So if your customer is asking you to make sure that always there is a 4 virtual machines up and running, or how much ever it may be, if they are asking 5 virtual machines should be always up and running, you need to make sure that it is connected across, it is spreaded across one more, so that the maintenance will be going one by one, and that will be the remaining will be always available for your application and for your customer. Okay, so this is the one. Clear? Okay, so now we have seen how we can create an availability set, right? So in this availability set, if you want to go and delete your availability set, you can't just go ahead and delete availability set. If you go ahead and delete, so obviously it will ask you, can you see the error? Fail to delete the availability set because it is having a virtual machines up and running. So if you want to delete this availability set, then you have to make sure these virtual machines deleted first, then go and delete your availability set. Okay, so to tell you again, this availability set is not going to create or create any virtual machines. It will just make sure that whatever the virtual machines you are creating in connecting with this availability set, it will just make sure to spread your virtual machines across different fault and update domains for the high availability. So if you think it is all happening in one data center. So in one data center, there is a rack of servers. There are rack of servers where you are hosting your applications. So whatever this availability set, this is applicable to a particular or any data center which in the region which you have selected. Okay. So now let's go and see about. I can see that Muthu is asking some question. Muthu, can you please wait until our question and answer session? We'll discuss in the last. I'll first complete the session. Please make a note down of the questions. Okay, thank you so much. So now let's go to our next topic, availability zone. So what is the difference between availability set and the availability zone? Availability zone is nothing but, or let's say this is Azure region. Okay. Let's say East US or any region which you have selected. Okay. So there is a physical location, a separate physical location, and this is a separate physical location, and this is a separate physical location. So in this location, I can, so Azure has one or multiple data centers. Here, one or more data centers. Here also one or more data centers. So this each physical location, which has been completely isolated with the other two physical locations. I mean, so the whatever the power, network, cooling systems, everything in regards to the each physical locations here are different when compared to the others. Okay, but it will be connected with the low latency network with the fiber optics. So whatever the communication happening between these virtual machines will be happen through the network. Okay, so but when it comes to the power, cooling system or anything, whatever the physical location, this one is completely identical. This is completely unique when compared to the other two ones. Okay, so this one is called as a zone. So this one particular physical location is called as a zone. This particular physical location is called as a one zone. Okay, so in Azure, each region they are providing you zones of at least, I mean, minimum of 3 zones. So whichever the region they are offering the availability zones, they should have at least 3 zones or more than that, but at least 3 zones will be available for you. Okay, in Azure regions, there are like it is not applicable for all the regions. Okay, there are few regions only which supports this availability zones functionality. There are the other regions which doesn't have this availability zones yet. They are having just one single data center. So that is one Azure region. Okay, so there are few Azure regions in the Azure which are offering these Azure zones. So each zone is a physical isolated data centers. That might be one data center or more than one data center, can be one zone. So now let's say if I'm going to host my virtual machine in the zone 1. Okay, I'm going to host my virtual machine in the zone 2. I'm going to host my virtual machine in the zone 3. In this case, not only the failures with the hardware, not only the failures of one particular rack or something, even though the whole data center goes down or the whole zone itself, even though the whole zone goes down, even then my virtual machines, whatever I have hosted in my other, availability zones will be still available for the customers. Right, so this is to see at the data center level failures. So when you expect to avoid the level of data center failures, so there could be like any major power outage that could be happening in one particular location, or something because of floods. So is something happening? So if the whole data center is going down, still you are having your applications up and running from the other availability zones. Okay, let me go ahead and create one for you, and we'll see how we can do that in the Azure portal. Okay, I'm just going to clear. Let's go to Azure portal. Now I'm going to one virtual machine, create. I'm selecting the same resource group. Now virtual machine name, I'm giving it as some, let's say virtual machine 3. So if you see here, this region is Australia Southeast. And if I scroll down, I don't have this availability zones enabled. Do you know why? Because as I said, this Australia Southeast doesn't support the availability zones. So you need to choose the location. You need to choose the region which supports the availability zones. You can go to the azure.microsoft.com. There you can find the regions which supports the availability zones. As of now, I'm choosing the East US. I know that East US and Central US, all these regions has an availability zones option. Okay, so as of now, I chosen the East US. Now, if I go ahead, you can see that availability zone is available now. If I go and click here, it is asking me where I want to host my virtual machine. I mean, where I want to host this virtual machine in. I want to host in zone 1 or zone 2 or zone 3. It's completely up to me where I wanted to host. Let me go ahead and select zone 1. So like this, nothing else changes. It will just create this virtual machine in this East US region and in availability zone 1. If I want another virtual machine, then I will go and create another virtual machine, and the next time I will choose as a availability zone 2, so that the other virtual machine will be created in this zone 2 and it will be available even though if zone 1 goes down. Okay, in the same way, I can go and create another virtual machine and I can assign it to zone 3 as well. Okay, so if even 1 and 2 goes down, so 3 will be available. It's completely up to me how many virtual machines I want to create and how many zones I want to place it. Okay, so in this way, you can go create and one by one. You can also do using the virtual machine scale set. Whatever I have shown you, like we can go and create one virtual machine with zone 1, one virtual machine with zone 2, one virtual machine with zone 3 manually. So you have to create the virtual machine 3 times for this, right? If I go to the virtual machines, okay, I'm not going to create it. Okay, now if I go to the virtual machine scale set here, let me go ahead and create one. Choose the resource group. I'm going to name it as scale set 1. Okay. Now, so Australia Southeast doesn't support the availability zones, so I don't have any availability zones here, right? If I scroll down, if I choose East US, then now availability zones are available for me. Now I can go ahead wherever I want to place my virtual machines. I can select the choose. If I want to place the virtual machines across all the zones available for me here, I can go and select all the zones as well. Okay. So the next, orchestration. So orchestration, I will tell you why do we need uniform orchestration and why do we need flexible orchestration in some time. As of now, remember that I'm going with the uniform orchestration. Okay, I'm choosing the same this one, but I'm going to change the size. I'm going with username and password. Let's say username. I'm going to give password. Let me go to disk. I'm not going to change anything in the disk. So if you can see here, this virtual machine scale set has created its own network. So whatever the virtual machines that you are going to place under this virtual machine scale set will be connected with this network. Okay, so I'm just going to edit because I want to allow the inbound ports. I want to allow SSH traffic and I want public IP address. So I'm enabling it. So just give OK. Okay. So I have just allowed the inbound ports, inbound network of SSH traffic. Okay, I'm just going to the scaling now. How many instances you want to create? So as I showed you, I want 3 instances. Let's say I want 3 instances. I want 3 instances. And scaling policy, remember, as of now, I'm going manual. I will explain you what is custom also. Okay, I'm going with management, then health, advanced, So as you can see here, it's maximum spreading. It is applicable when you have your instances more than 100. So if you see here, enable scaling beyond 100 instances. As of now, I'm just going to create it 3 instances, right? So I don't need this option. So I'm going with the fixed spreading and I'm just disabling it. Okay, so this fault domain count is 5 now. It means that in each availability zones, if I am having a virtual machines, it will be spreaded across up to 5 fault domains. Okay, next I'm doing tags, review and create. Okay, so I'm creating a virtual machine scale set now. So here I don't need to go and create each and every virtual machine individually by selecting zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 like that. So if I go and create this virtual machine scale set, and if I tell it how many instances do I want, it will automatically create 3 virtual machines for me. And it will also make sure that as I have chosen these zones as 1, 2, and 3, all of these zones, it will make sure whatever the virtual machine instances it is creating, it will be spreaded across all the availability zones. Okay, let's say deployment progress. Let us come back in some time. Okay, now so now let's see what is the main purpose of having a virtual machine scale set. Okay, now let me unload it. Okay, let's say this is your application. Okay, you are having a users here, multiple users who are trying to access your application. Okay, so you have created 3 virtual machines here. So whatever the application, you have created 3 virtual machines here, and your application will be hosted on all the virtual machines to maintain the performance and to maintain the traffic, right? So the users whoever trying to access your application, they will be served from this virtual machine, this virtual machine, this virtual machine. This traffic will be maintained, spreaded across the virtual machines with the service called as a load balancer. I hope you would have heard about it. So load balancer will make sure whatever the traffic that is coming to access your application, if this virtual machine is reaching the maximum capacity, then it will divert the traffic to the next virtual machine. And if that is also reaching the maximum point, then it will divert the traffic to the next virtual machine. Okay. So this is in terms to the virtual machine. But what this virtual machine scale set will do is, let's say if you have 1 instance of the virtual machine created. Okay, so let's say your traffic is coming to access your application from this virtual machine 1. Now this virtual machine, if you go and set some rules in this virtual machine scale set, saying that, okay, if the CPU percentage or the traffic, or if the CPU percentage is going greater than 60% or 70%, create another virtual machine. So you're setting the rules here in the virtual machine scale set. You're not going to create the virtual machine now by yourself. Okay, so you are setting the rules here in virtual machine, stating that if the CPU percentage is going by greater than 60% or 70%, create another identical virtual machine, same like the first one. Okay, if this traffic is also going greater than 60%, then create another one. So this virtual machine scale set will make sure to create a new identical virtual machines based on the usage. Okay, after some time, let's say the users has gone and the traffic has come down. So then I don't need to maintain all these 3 virtual machines, right? At that time, I need to scale in my virtual machines. At that time, I don't need this virtual machine or this virtual machine, whatever. Based on the traffic, I may need only 1 virtual machine, or I may need only 2 virtual machines. So the whatever extra virtual machines I have, that needs to be deleted, because I don't want to be extra billed when there is no usage of my virtual machines, right? So we will see this example as well in some time. Let's go to the Azure Portal. So this is the scale set which we have created, right, within the 3 instances. If you remember, if you go to the scale set, if you click on the instances, you can see that 3 instances, I mean the 3 virtual machine instances it has created, right? This one is it's still starting, these 2 are already running. If you go and just refresh. Okay, so now if you go click on one virtual machine, you can see that that particular virtual machine is assigned to zone 1, right? So if you go to the second virtual machine, that is assigned to the zone 2. If you go to the third virtual machine, that is assigned to the zone 3. Here, I have not created any virtual machines by myself, and I have not assigned these zones. So whatever the virtual machines instances it has created, it has allocated the virtual machines based on the availability zones. I mean, how many availability zones you have created, it has spreaded your virtual machines across all the zones. Let's say if you have another virtual machine, virtual machine 4, then it will be created in the zone 1 again. And again, the second one will be created in zone 2, like that. So whatever the virtual machines you are creating, it will be again spreaded across the zones you have selected. Okay, so this is the one of the example. Now, as I told you here, now if you remember, I have chosen the 3 virtual machines by myself while creating. I have told how many instances do I need while creating this scale set, right? I have chosen 3 virtual machines, I mean 3 instances to be created. That is why it has created 3 virtual machines here. So, but as per the scenario we have discussed here, it should be creating based on the condition, based on the usage. Whenever the high availability or the high stress or the high traffic is coming to the virtual machine, then only it should be creating the other virtual machines as needed. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So we have 3 virtual machines now, right? I'm just going to delete 2 of them because I want to make my virtual machine scale set to create automatically based on the traffic. Okay. Let it delete. So meanwhile, let us go and see, as it takes some time. So let us go and see one more thing regarding the orchestration, which I have explained you while creating the scale set. We have just gone with the uniform orchestration, right? I will explain you what is the difference between the flexible and the uniform and how and what is the usage of that. Okay, let me go ahead and create one virtual machine scale set, another one. This is called as, I'm calling it as, let's say, as a scale 2. This is my second virtual machine skill set. Okay, so I don't bother about the regions now because I'm not going to place it in any availability zones. I'm just going with that. I just wanted to show you about the different orchestration modes now. Okay, so now previously when I was creating the virtual machine scale set, I have chosen the uniform one, right? Now I'm going with the flexible one. Okay, let me change it to flexible and everything is same. Just go ahead with the username and password. So to this, as you can see, it has created another network. So whatever the virtual machines that I'm going to place or that is going to create it as part of this virtual machine scale set, that will be part of this virtual network. Okay. So I'm not just changing any network settings because I'm not going to log in into the virtual machines. It is just to show you the orchestration method. Okay, so let's review and connect. Okay, until it gets created, let's go back to our scale set 1. So now, if you go to the instances, we have deleted 2 instances, right? I have only 1 instance now. Now I'm going to set a condition to my virtual machine scale set saying that, okay, if the usage is more than 60 or 70% of this virtual machine, please go and create another virtual machine to spread the, to create another virtual machine to spread for the better performance of the application. Okay. So now let's go to, if you go to your virtual machine scale set, and if you scroll down, you will be having an option called scaling. Okay, if you click on that, as you can see here, this one is a manual. If you remember, while creating the scale set, I had 2 options, which is called as a manual and custom. I told you I'm going with manual as of now because I just wanted to create 3 instances, right? So this is the manual method where you go by yourself and increase the number of instances you want. So, and if you go and increase, and if you go and save, automatically it will create the number of instances, how much ever you have selected here. Okay, so I don't want this. I want to create by itself when there is a load, right? So I'm going to custom auto scale. Now I'm not going to change anything in regards to my resource group. Let's scroll down. And if you can see here in the scale mode, I'm going with scale based on a metric because I want to scale based on some metrics, okay, some conditions. I'm going to add a rule. So you can add a rule based on different metrics, like you can add a rule based on your scale set, you can add a rule based on your application gateways, you can add a rule based on your storage. I mean, you can add a rule based on your different resources you are using here, right? I'm going with the resource virtual machine scale set itself. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm leaving as it is. So now what the condition I'm going to mention here is, so the metric name. So I'm going to check for the CPU percentage. Likewise, you can choose any condition that you wanted to, like any property that you wanted to mention. When that particular property goes beyond particular limit, then the new instance should be created. So in that way, so you can go with the disk size or the bandwidth or the CPU percentage, whatever it may be. So I'm going with the percentage CPU. Okay. If I scroll down, I'm telling us if my usage, or if my CPU percentage usage is going beyond, greater than 60%, then how much time it should be? So it should be like after having like 10 minutes. So initially you had 10, right? What that means is, so when your virtual machine 1 is getting the traffic, right? When the CPU percentage is going beyond 60%, still it will not create another instance immediately. It will wait for 10 minutes until to monitor if in that 10 minutes, if the network or the usage is going down, it will not create the another instance. If the same, if the CPU percentage is more, more than 60%, which you have set, is more than 10 minutes, then it will create the another instance. So as we can't wait for 10 minutes now, I have just changed it to 1 minute. As you can see, the minimum, it is telling me a notification that minimum 5 minutes should be there, at least to make sure before creating the next instance. But as we don't have that much time, I'm just going with the 1 minute now. Okay, increase the count by 1. So you can choose how many instances you want to create. So when the 60% is reached, you can go and create 2 instances. You can go and create 3 instances based on your requirement. As I am going to create just one sample one, I'm going to create with 1. So when my 1 virtual machine is going beyond 60%, then please create another 1 instance, another 1 virtual machine instance. Okay, so now I'm going to change this cooldown time is also 1 minute. What is the cooldown time? Cooldown time is nothing but once 1 instance has been created. Let's say you have virtual machine 1 and it has created the virtual machine 2. So before creating the virtual machine 3, it will wait for this time it means the cooling time between creating different instances. So one virtual machine, after creating one instance of the virtual machine, it will wait for 5 minutes again. Then if after the 5 minutes, if the percentage of CPU is going beyond 60, and it will wait for it will wait again for this duration until it completes. So after that, it will create the next instance. So it will make sure the time between each instances and also the traffic, the load on the each instance should be satisfied these timings. Or if that condition satisfies, then it will create the another instance. So as of now, I'm just going with 1 minute. I'm just going to add this. So if you can see here, I have created when this scale set CPU percentage is greater than 60%, then increase the count of my instance by 1, right? I'm going to save this rule. So it's updating my scale set now. So now we know that we don't have any usage or the traffic is actually using our virtual machine, right? We have just created one sample one. We don't have any traffic coming to our virtual machine so that this virtual machine scale set can increase the next instance, right? So what we are going to do is, so as you can see, we have only one virtual machine now. So I have set the condition when this virtual machine is reaching more than 60%, please create the next instance, right? Now we need to go ahead and give a traffic or a load to this virtual machine so that the other instance can be created. Now I'm going into this virtual machine. I'm just going to give some artificial, some temporary traffic to this virtual machine so that my other instance can be created. Okay, this is my virtual machine instance that was in place. And now I'm selecting my public IP address. I'm copying it. Now I'm going to log in into this virtual machine as it is. Let me check. Okay, so I'm just going into my putty tool. I'm going to connect to my virtual machine because whatever the virtual machine I have created is I have chosen the image of Ubuntu, right? I mean the Linux virtual machine. So I'm going to connect it. I am going to connect it remotely via this putty tool. Okay, I'm just going to open the console. I have given a username and I have given a password. So it means that now we are going to create one virtual machine. And in that virtual machine, we are going to give some artificial traffic, artificial load onto this virtual machine so that I can see that my virtual machine scale sets automatically creates the another instance. Okay, now I'm logging into my virtual machine. Here, let's go and update. So this is the command, just it will update your package index of your Linux virtual machine. Okay, it will download all the, if there is something missing from your operating system, it will update all the packages to your operating system. Okay, it is done now. Now I'm going to install application called as Stress. So Stress is a application which will create artificial load or the artificial traffic on that particular virtual machine for some time. Okay, so I'm just going to install it. Okay, it's installing this Stress. Done. So now it's done. Now what I'm going to do is, okay, Stress what my CPU. Sorry. Okay, Stress my CPU with some say 1,000 hops. Okay, so I have just typed that command stress -CPU 1,000. Now I'm giving some load to my virtual machine, this virtual machine. Okay, so now let me minimize it. This is my scale set. If I go to my scale set, if I come to the instances, I still have only one instance, right? I don't have another instance created it because we have given a 1 minute of time. Once the load is arriving to that particular virtual machine, it will wait for 1 minute and then If still the load is not getting reduced, then it will create a one more instance. Okay, so let's wait for some time until it gets created, and we'll come back and we'll see. So this is what happening in my scale set. So until then, we will see about the next topic, which we have created. Where is my scale set 2? Okay, I think I haven't. Okay, so no worries, we will go and create one. As I told you, we have created one virtual machine scale set with the orchestration method of flexible, right? So I'm just going to do that. I think I have not clicked on the create again. Okay, no problem. So I'm just going to create one resource group. I'm calling it scale set 2. Sorry, scale set 2. The same region I'm not going to change. Only the orchestration mode I wanted to change to show you the flexible one. And I'm going with the password. And so I'm just going to next. So one instance is enough for me as of now. Okay, so validation is passed. So let it create the another virtual machine scale set. So I will show you the difference between the scale set, the one I have created with the one with orchestration method uniform, right? So other one I'm creating with the orchestration method going as a flexible. So I'll show you what's the difference between going with uniform and flexible. Let it create. Meanwhile, let us go and check what's happening in our scale set 1. Go to the instances. Okay, still the new one has not created it. Meanwhile, my scale set 2 is also getting deployed. Both the deployment is in progress. So it will take some time to create. So it needs to wait for 1 minute for creating accepting the load of 1 minute. I mean, it will wait for 1 minute until the load goes beyond the 60%. And again, it will wait for 1 more minute before creating a new instance, right? So let it create. So let us wait here. Okay, so this is one. And this is another scale set, right? Okay, so okay, let's go and see about the proximity placement group meanwhile. Okay, let this scale set create, and the other one we have is our new instance should be up here in scale set 1 because we have applied a load on our virtual machine, one virtual machine which we have, right? So okay, my scale set 2 is done now. Let us go see here. As you see here, while creating this scale set 2, I have chosen one instance as I required one instance. So it has created only one virtual machine instance, that is scale 26863 something. Okay, so if you go to the home, if you go to the virtual machines, can you see here? This is the virtual machines which I have created earlier while checking the availability set, right? And again, now this is the virtual machine which was created now with the virtual machine scale set where I have selected the flexible orchestration, right? If you think about that, the virtual machines which was created as a part of scale set 1, I mean, which we have given as a uniform orchestration, that is not displayed here, right? So it means that when you go and create your virtual machine scale set, and if you are going with the uniform orchestration, so whatever the resources that is getting created inside that virtual machine scale set will be available only to you only inside that virtual machine scale set itself. So it will just increase the instances when the load is coming, and it will decrease the instances when the load is reducing. You cannot use those virtual machines outside of that virtual machine scale set for any other purpose. Whereas if you go this orchestration method with the flexible, then whatever the virtual machines that is getting created as part of this virtual machine scale set will be available for you as a independent resources as well. It means you can go ahead and use these virtual machines for any other purposes, or if you want to deploy some other things or test some other things, it will be available for you if you go ahead with the flexible skill set, flexible orchestration while creating the skill set. If I want to go ahead and create this new virtual machine, let's say I'm not creating, I just wanted to show you. So if I go ahead and I want to create this virtual machine, now, if you see here in the availability options, if I go and select a virtual machine scale set, can you see here only the scale set 2 is displayed here and scale set 1 is not an option, right? So it means that any virtual machine you are creating, if you want to create and assign it to some virtual machine scale set, then that virtual machine scale set should have a flexible orchestration. Okay, so if you, as the scale set 1 is having a uniform orchestration, it is not displayed for us here to create a new virtual machine to be part of that. It will only create the instances inside that. If you want to change anything in regards to that instances, you have to go inside that particular virtual machine scale set, and you can increase or decrease according to your requirement. But with this flexible option, you can add a new virtual machine to that scale set, and also you can use the virtual machines that are getting created as part of that scale set outside of that scale set as well. Okay. So this is the one more thing. So, okay, so I wanted to tell you one more thing. So let's say if you have one virtual machine created, okay, you have not selected any availability. You have just gone with, let's say, no infrastructure redundancy required, and you have created and deployed your virtual machines. Okay, so once you have created your virtual machine and you have not made it part of any availability set, or if you have not made it part of any your virtual machine scale set, then there is no way you can add this virtual machine to your availability set or your available virtual machine scale set. You can do only while creating this virtual machine. If you have already one virtual machine that is created earlier, and if it is not been part of any availability sets, then there is no way you can go and add that virtual machine to any of the availability set or the availability virtual machine scale set. The only thing is you can go and delete that, and you can come back and create new one with selecting these availability set or virtual machine scale set options. Okay. So that is the one more thing. Okay. So another thing I wanted to tell you is, I don't want it. So let's move. So the other thing I want to tell you is, let's see what happened in our skill set 1. Still the instance has not created it. Okay, so until it gets created, let us wait, and I'll go and tell you what about the proximity placement groups. Okay, let's go and create one proximity placement group. Go and create. Just giving it as proxy 1. Okay, so I'm just creating one proximity placement group. I told you earlier, right? So you can use this proximity placement groups to group your virtual machines to so that one can be close to other as close as possible when it comes to the actual physical infrastructure. Okay, let's go home. So if you want to assign these proximity groups to your virtual machines or to your availability sets or to your virtual machine scale set, you can do that while creating your virtual machine scale set or your availability set. Let me show you while creating the virtual machine. So if you want to try any virtual machine, you will be having an option called advanced, right? So if you scroll down, you will be having an option called proximity placement group. So in this way, you can go ahead. If you have any proximity group already created, you can just choose that one so that this virtual machine will be part of this group. So any other virtual machines that is getting created as part of this particular proxy group, so that will be placed as close as possible in the actual physical, in the data center, in the physical hardware. Okay. And this is the one more thing I wanted to show you about this proximity group. Why it's taking so long. Okay, sorry. So do you know why it has not been created? You can see that instance limit, I have placed it as 1. And I have placed the maximum number as also 1. It means that, so I'm telling this condition how many maximum instances it can create or how many minimum instances should it have. So it has already 1 as a minimum. So as you can see here, I have not increased the limit to create another one, right? So the maximum limit here is also 1. So it has not created a new one. So I'm just going here. Let's say I'm giving as a 2. Maximum limit can be 2. I'm going to save. So I'm going to update my auto scale configuration. Done. Okay. So now let's come back and refresh. So now it should create because we have a modified in scaling conditions. Let's see. Let's see if the load is still available. Yes, it's still placing a load on this machine 1. So as you can see here, the another virtual machine is getting created. It's saying creating, right? Because now the maximum number it can create, I have changed it to 2, or I can change it to 3, or how many ever I want. So based on that, until it will create based on the load. Let's say if I have selected 5. So when the first virtual machine load is going beyond 60%, it will create the second one. So when the load is going beyond 60% here, it will create the third one until it will create, up to it will create the 5 virtual machine instances if I have selected a maximum number of instances as a 5. So as of now, I have chosen only 2. So it will create only another one as it has already 1 available, right? So let it do its job. Done. So we have placed a load. So whenever the traffic is coming, it has automatically scaled up the another virtual machine here, right? So I haven't gone and created this one particularly, right? So now I'm going to the same scaling conditions. I'm going to add another rule. The same rule I'm telling it, like if the percentage CPU is less than 50% for a duration of 1 minute, then please decrease my count by 1. And the cooling time I'm doing is 1. So it means that I am scaling. So whatever the condition I have first given is to scale up my virtual machines whenever the load is increasing. Now I'm adding the condition to scale in my virtual machines when the traffic is coming down. Okay, so I'm just going ahead. So if you can see, when scale 1 average CPU is less than 50%, then decrease the count by 1. I have added the condition now. I'm going to save. Okay, so now we have to stop the load which we have given on the virtual machine scale, virtual machine 1, right? So I'm just going ahead. I'm just clicking on Control C. So if you click on the Control C, it will exit from the command which we have given. So I have stopped the traffic. I mean, I have stopped the stress which I have given on this virtual machine. So based on this condition, as the traffic has, as the stress on this particular virtual machine has stopped, it should delete one virtual machine by itself, and I should have only one virtual machine. Okay, let us see what it will do. So it will take some 1 or 2 minutes. So meanwhile, I'll just want to summarize what we have discussed today in our Azure session. So first, we have discussed about the availability sets. Availability set is a service which allows your virtual machines to be spreaded across multiple fault domains and the multiple update domains in the data center. Okay, so update domains will be will represent any updates that is going to be done by the Azure itself, like any maintenance period or any updates to the underlying infrastructure is going to be happening, then that particular set of logical group is called as an update domain, and that it's going to be applied to one by one. Okay. So fault domain is nothing but a separate hardware or separate rack of the servers, which is having their separate power source and the network switches, so that if any particular rack is going down, so your virtual machine will be available in the other racks of the other physical hardware. Okay, so that is in regards to the availability set. And we have seen the availability zone. Availability zone is nothing but a particular physical location that is having a one or more data centers that is spread across in one region, one Azure region. So minimum number of Azure zones that region can consist of is 3, and it can have more than 3 as well. Okay. So we have seen that, and we have also seen the virtual machine scale set. So scale set is useful when you want to create a multiple virtual machines on a go. Like in one go, you can create multiple instances of the virtual machines. If you are going with the manual method, and if you are giving like 10, 15, whatever it may be, sorry. So 10 or 15, whatever it may be, the instance count you are giving, it will create those many virtual machines in one single go. You don't need to go and create one by one. Okay. So the other usage of this virtual machine scale set is if you are going to set up few conditions in this virtual machine scale set, then it's going to scale up your virtual machine and also scale down your virtual machine based on the conditions or the metrics you are assigning. If you are saying that, okay, if the CPU percentage is more than this much, scale up. If the CPU percentage is coming down, so please scale down. So like that. If you are giving some other metrics, like if the storage amount is going beyond this size, scale up. If the storage is coming down, then scale down. So like that, you can based on any metrics, on any conditions of any particular resources, you can scale up and scale in these scale out and scale in these virtual machines based on the load. Okay. This is the one we have discussed, and also we have seen how we can create a proximity placement groups and how we can allocate it to different different availability sets and different availability virtual machine scale set, how we can make that proximity groups applicable to the virtual machines. We have seen that, and also we have seen the different types of orchestration. So the usage of the uniform orchestration and the usage of the flexible orchestration. So if you are going to create a virtual machine scale set with the uniform orchestration, then it's going to create your virtual machine only within that scale set, and it's not be useful for you outside of that. If you are going with the flexible one, then the virtual machines which is getting created, that will be available for you even out of that virtual machine scale set, that you can use for any other purposes as well. Okay. Let us see what has happened here. So as you can see here, we have only one virtual machine. I have not gone and I have not deleted by myself, right? I have just kept a condition. Whenever the CPU percentage is coming down, please scale in. So it means that I have gone and stopped the load in this virtual machine, right? So the traffic has come down now. So it detected that the CPU utilization is coming down below this 50%, and it has deleted one instance. Okay, so if you go here in the overview, or if you go in the monitoring, you can see the actual CPU utilization that happened, the actual network utilization that has happened. If you can see here, when we have applied the load, it has gone to the maximum percent. As you can see here, the percentage in the down. So you see here it is 99.9225%. So that is why it has created another new instance, because it is more than 60%, right? So in the same time, when I have stopped the load, it has came down to 0.1 something. So that's why it's less than 50%. That's why it has deleted the instance that, additional instance. So you can ask me why the instance of, so as you can see here, so this is the second instance. This is the new instance which was created as part of your skill set, right? You can ask me why it is not deleted, why the first one, the actual one was created, the actual one was deleted, right? If you want to manage by yourself which virtual machine you wanted to delete and which virtual machine you wanted to scale in, you can do that while creating your virtual machine scale set itself. I'll just go and show you. So if you want to create some virtual machine scale set, here, then you will, in the scaling option, you will be having one option called scale in policy. Here you can choose which virtual machine should be deleted while scaling in. When the load gets down, so while happening the scaling, which virtual machine should be deleted. The newest one which you have, if you select this one, the newest one, whichever it has created, that will be deleted. If you chosen the oldest one, it will delete the earlier one and it will keep the new one. If you go by default, it will just check the availability of it will check the availability with where that virtual machines has been placed, and it will check which one is having a high availability. It will, based on that distribution across the zones, it will keep deleting it. Okay, by this you can manage which virtual machine should be deleted and scale in. Okay, and one more thing I wanted to let you know is, if you are new to Azure, if you are by practicing yourself, like if you are creating your account and if you're practicing, then whenever you create your virtual machine scale set, and whenever you go and create the conditions which we have given now for scaling up, scaling out and scaling in, we have gone into the scaling conditions and we have gone into the custom and we have added this, right? So if you are new to this Azure platform, then when you try to create these virtual machines condition rules, then it will get failed and it will ask you to make your subscription to be part of Microsoft.Insights policies. So if I go here in the home, if I go to the Azure subscription, I'll show you. If you go to resource providers in your subscription, go to the resource providers. Here you can see which subscription, which provider services you are registered for. So you can only use those services, right? So there are few other services which I have not registered, right? So then what you have to do is, there should be one. Let me show you, or let me search here. Okay, so as you can see here one Microsoft Insights. So whatever the rules we are using, the services, the metrics we are setting up, it is part of this Microsoft Insights. So if you are not registered for this Microsoft Insights, then obviously while creating your rules, it will get failed. So what you have to do is, you have to select that and you have to, so as I have already registered, it's asking me to re-register or unregister. If I go to some non-registered one, you will be having an option called register. So you can just go ahead and register that particular provider, so that that services will be available for you. Okay, we have already passed that. I am sorry. Okay, let me go ahead and stop the recording.